Welcome to the Peace of Me podcast. This is your space for all things peace, positivity, and finding balance to live your best life. Life gets busy, and at times it's messy. I'm here to help you clean things up and put peace back in its place. I'll share tips, ideas, interviews, mindset shifts, and fresh perspectives to help you along the way. If you've been listening to this show for some time, then you've heard me talk about how much I love my iced coffee. I drink it year-round and rotate the creamer flavors to keep it fun. In the summer, I would switch between coconut cream and French vanilla. But now that we're shifting seasons, I'll pull cinnamon roll and pumpkin spice out of the archives and into the mix. Once my iced coffee is just the way I like it, I'll add a Java sock sleeve to keep it colder for longer. Think coffee koozie. These sleeves keep my cup from sweating and making a total mess. Plus, Java socks add a touch of your personality to your cup. Because I love iced coffee so much, I want to give a handful of lucky listeners a free coffee on me. I've partnered with Java Sock to include a pink tie-dye coffee sock with this giveaway. I love the color combination. The pink tie-dye is giving total Barbie vibes. To see the sock, get the contest rules, and for your chance to win, head on over to the Peace of Me podcast Instagram page. I'll also link my Instagram page in the show notes of this episode below so you can have a chance to get a coffee on me. Hi friends, it's Lexy Leigh. If you're new here, welcome. And if you're not new, then welcome back and thanks for coming back to the podcast. Last week, I had Gracelyn from Living Sobriety Authentically join me on the podcast to talk about why she quit alcohol. And the reason we're talking about this right now is because this episode is coming out right in time for October, which for some might be a sober October. Now, Gracelyn really opened up about her struggles and how she's found the strength to stay the path. Today's episode is the second part of our conversation. So if you haven't already listened to part one, you'll want to go back to last week's episode first so you don't miss any of this. Now, our conversation picks right back up where we left off in last week's episode. Now, I've linked Gracelyn's blog and social links in the show notes below if you'd like some more support. Now, please be aware that the topics shared in this episode might be triggering for some, so listener discretion is advised. You've been sober now, you said, for 6.5 years. What kind of positive things have changed in your life, or just what changes have you kind of noticed in general since, I guess, 6.5 years ago?
Yeah, so one of the biggest changes that I have seen is, and it wasn't immediate, but what I have been able to see moving forward is a more authentic relationship with both of myself and with loved ones. And so, when you allow yourself, especially thinking of loved ones, to be your true authentic self with them, you're able to get a deeper level of support, love, and compassion, and really grace even from them. If we never share our story or embrace those connections, we're always going to close ourselves off to having that support that a lot of us want and all of us need. And so that has been a really great change. And now I will say it's not always perfect. There's been some learning lessons where I've opened up to someone who hasn't been ready to step into that supportive, non-judgmental role. But it was just a lesson learned. I moved forward with it. And at some point they may be ready to kind of embrace that, and that's okay. So that's been great. Financially, obviously there are pluses, just removing that spending from your day-to-day for many of us. And then, just being able to compassionately love yourself. Again, not perfect. It's hard. Some days are better than others, but you allow yourself to be proud of yourself again, and to know that you're a warrior and a fighter and that you are making it through. And so those are all great things. But I mean, even on a smaller level, it's, waking up the next day and not being worried about what you've done or who you might have hurt or what decisions you've made. Not having to take sick days from work because were using any substance or anything the night before to excess, and were then not able to perform in your day to day. And so there's every aspect of life gets better. And again, it doesn't mean that every day is going to be perfect. It doesn't mean that with recovery comes absence of adversity. I wish it did. I think we all would wish that. But it means that you can bravely and courageously take on that adversity and grow from it and just overcome at a whole new level.
Well said. Well said. And you mentioned something earlier, so I might be putting you a little on the spot with this, but you talked about, the environments that you can surround yourself with, friends. There might be certain events that you decide, I'm not going to go, I'm going to sit this one out. And so not only do you obviously have to be clear with your support circle, but, communicating this with your friends understand what's going on. But what happens when it comes to dating? Because I do know someone who is dating what I guess, he calls himself something different, but he's recovering from alcohol and she is not. So I'm curious when it comes to dating, we have a lot of women that listen to this podcast. So I'm curious when it comes to dating, how do you navigate, I guess, the dating life, or how do you communicate this with people you're dating or whoever whoever your partner might be? How do you do that?
It's hard. I'll just be honest and say it really is hard. I think that's where that open line of communication, that mutual respect and love has to come in. I have been in that situation with my partner, and, I'm in recovery. He is not. And so how that has had to look is having that conversation of, hey, if I'm in a situation where I don't feel comfortable, I feel like my recovery is at risk, I need you to help. I need you to help me advocate to leave. I need you, I have a couple friends, like I said, my journey started 9 years ago. So this has been quite a while. And I have friends who still to this day, almost every time I see them, will say, oh, I miss, old Gracelyn. You were so fun. Do you remember when you did X, Y, and Z? And I know for me, that is absolutely not helpful. That creates a very challenging dynamic. And so I've had to share with my partner. I have people I work with who have as well have said, like, when you hear these things, I need you to stand up for me as well. I don't always want to have to be the one that is the heavy on that or having to advocate. Like, I need you to help. So that's been imperative, being willing to even consider talking to a mental health provider together so that you could share in a safe environment what your experiences have been. They can share, it's challenging for loved ones too, as they're navigating this new lifestyle that is being embraced. And so letting them share their experience and then mutually learning together of how does that look for us? How does it look for us individually? How does it look for us together as a unit? And then being willing to make those changes. And you might find that they are ready and willing to do so. And you might find that, maybe it's not the relationship that is the one that is the best fit for you and for your recovery. And that's okay. Doesn't mean that the relationship, quote, failed. It just, we grow into different people as we get older. You have a great podcast episode on that. I recommend people go back and listen to it. But as we get older, we just naturally we learn new things, we get new interests, our lifestyles change. And sometimes that means our supports around us, whether it's romantic or not, change as well. And that's okay. But If you find that it's a relationship that you want to stay in, again, romantic or otherwise, it comes about having that conversation of saying, hey, today I need you to not drink around me, or, hey, we really can't have alcohol in the home. I'm not saying you need to embrace this lifestyle with me. But if you want to have a drink when you go out, with friends, that's up to you, but we can't have it in the home. And I hope you can respect that. So, open communication all the time, but be willing to stand up for yourself and have that conversation of what you need, while also being willing to listen to your partner's needs as well.
And I love how you said, you think about your significant other, that they are there to support you. So saying, hey, I might need you to step in and have my back or defend me or whatever. I think that's such a great, because then you don't feel like you're doing this by yourself. You feel like you have a team.
Right. Absolutely.
I love that.
Yeah. And you just keep trying. You might find that you use one strategy to get that support and it's not working. So you try another one. Just always don't give up. That's like the biggest thing I could say is just don't give up. There's going to be times where it's absolutely incredible and you're going to love everything about sobriety. And there may be times where it's just challenging. Don't give up. Keep trying new strategies. Find what works. Recovery is all about being adaptable and flexible and learning, and just give yourself a space to do that.
Now, you also said something, and maybe this is like, I don't know, not a good question to ask you, but I'm curious. So I'm kind of putting you on the spot again. But you mentioned that, if you have a significant other and that they don't have to adopt or adapt to this lifestyle like you are. So let's just say boyfriend goes out, he goes out to the bar, has a good time with some friends, comes home, kisses you, and, there's remnants of beer or whatever on the breath. Does that make you feel any kind of, is that like, I don't know, how do you handle that? Is that kind of like, is that different for every person? What does that kind of look like?
Yeah, I would say it's different for every person, and it's different from day to day. There may be a day where you're feeling like you can do it, and then there may be days where you're like, hey, I need every ounce of support I can get so that I can maintain recovery. And so every day it's going to look different from one person to the next. And it's just learning to navigate that. And I think that's where that safety plan really comes into place. I always say, like, you can never overanalyze your safety plan. Like, think of every possible thing. And so maybe that is in the safety plan saying, okay, when my partner is going out for a happy hour with coworkers and is going to have a drink or two while out, then, I'm just going to say, hey, I think you use the example of kissing. Hey, we're just, I don't need a kiss tonight. I know you love me. I know you care. And this is going to be how I need you to show it tonight, is just by embracing that I need that support. So it's setting those boundaries in advance, and even having them written out. And then just also knowing that if, for example, your partner is going to a party where maybe they'll be drinking to excess, then it's having the conversation of, hey, I know you're going to be in this environment. If you end up drinking to excess, can you just stay at your friend's place for the night? And when you're sobered up and you're ready, I can't wait to see you tomorrow, but it's best for you and for me, if that's how tonight looks. So just put that in the safety plan and be willing to work with it. Because again, you may even find that you're an hour into a party and you went into the party and you were feeling great and ready to go, and an hour in is getting tough. You can still change your plan and go, okay, well, we're going to pivot and I'm going to go home and, get in my safe environment, and my partner is going to stay at the friend's house because that's where they need to be. And then just roll with it from there.
I love that. I love that it doesn't have to be like a definite thing, but there's so many ways around whatever kind of life situation, like you talked a lot about like the safety plan, and really just, it looks like you find what works for you and you just kind of have to adapt depending on the environment or what's going on. Is that kind of right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I always say, when plan A or plan B doesn't work out, you have the full alphabet, and even after that, you go to AA, BB, CC, you just keep going. It never has to end. And so just allow yourself to, try anything and everything that's healthy. If it's a app that you want to do, like the Calm app that has meditations, or it's going to a support group in the community, or connecting with a loved one who is a recovery ally, have everything listed out. And if you find that the first strategy that's your go-to just isn't working for you that day, go to the next one. Just keep trying. Just don't give up on yourself.
I love it. I love that. Now, talk to us about your blog, because you are the creator behind your blog.
Yeah. So Living Sobriety Authentically really was a passion project, to be completely honest. It was for my own healing journey. It was an opportunity for me to share what my experiences have been and get it on paper and truly physically close that chapter. It's, you hit publish and you hit next, and it's like, okay, I'm going to leave that right there. And so for me, it was very healing, but it was also, the bigger piece of it was, I really wanted to create a platform where we could normalize experiences around recovery, normalize that more days than not are absolutely incredible in recovery. They're exciting. They're hope filled. They're happy. And there are days in recovery that are hard, where you need extra support and you're not quite sure what that's going to look like. And I want to normalize that. I want to work to eradicate cultural stigma around substance use disorder and recovery from anything. I mean, really, while Living Sobriety Authentically has the name sobriety in the title, it talks about recovery, my recovery from an eating disorder. It talks about, recovery broadly, because many of us, if we sat and thought about any habit that we have had, unhealthy habit that we've had at any time in our life, it might not be an addiction, but just any challenging habit, we can all empathize to some degree the challenge that it took to get there and to make that change and to not return to use of whatever that might be. I mean, habits are just hard to change. And then having a substance use disorder or an addiction of any kind multiplies that challenge. And I want to normalize that, it's mental health is just as important as physical health. We all have it, and we need to embrace and get support around substance use disorders. And so that cultural stigma is there that I want to eradicate, but I also really want to eradicate the self-stigma, the stigma that we hold against ourselves of, well, addiction looks like X, Y, and Z, and well, I don't look like that, and so I can't have a substance use disorder, and therefore I don't need help, and therefore I'm not going to get better. It's that whole system. And so I want all of that to go away. It's going to take time, but that's my end goal. I want people to know that you are so worthy of love and compassion and validation, whether you have an addiction to anything or you don't. You are so much more than any physical or mental health disorder. You are so much more than your past experiences or your current situation or where you're going. Like, you're amazing. Everyone who's listening to this, you are absolutely amazing. And I want the blog to showcase that.
And I'm going to link your blog in the show notes so that if anyone is driving while they listen to this episode, don't worry, because it is a long name, and that way they can just
go yes.
the show notes, right? Listen, I get it.
So long.
People don't spell the word peace right, so it's okay. I get it.
After I posted, I was like, I don't know what I was thinking. I was like, it's like 9 million characters. I was like, what was I doing here?
No, I think it's great, but I just know, it's probably easier if I just list it for everybody as a reference
I
point.
appreciate you.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I was also thinking too with your blog. I mean, you actually have a section on there of mocktails, like mocktail
Yeah.
recipes. I think that's so cool because I think that's becoming, I don't know, maybe it's like you said, it's becoming talked about a little bit more, but I'm noticing, I just saw a commercial the other day and it was like a lemonade brand. And now they have like a lemonade, whatever, and you can have it as is, or if you choose to mix with alcohol, that's up to the person who's buying it. But they have it as a mocktail ready to serve. Like it's already made for you. And if you want to have something a little bit fun, you can buy it at the grocery store just like that. So I think that's pretty neat.
Yeah, that's been fun. It's probably been one of my favorite sections. I mean, obviously, I love the actual blog part because it allows you to like do some education and reducing stigma and all of that. But I intentionally wanted to have the mocktails because I wanted people to be reassured that you can have so much fun, in sobriety. When you don't have alcohol in your life, that doesn't take the fun out of it. You're probably actually way more fun. That's what I always say. I am way more fun now that I'm in sobriety because I'm not all over the place. But you can have fun drinks and you can have your summer staple, your drink of the summer, and enjoy all of the things that you enjoyed without alcohol. And so that was pretty intentional in how I like picked to have that on the blog. Because again, that's I think one of the fears that people have is like, well, I won't be able to enjoy all the fun things and have the summer drink staple that everyone has. It's like, oh, there's so much that you can still do, and you can have that same taste without the alcohol. And so it's been fun trying to think of new recipes, both some that are healthier options, some that are just very fun, and so it's been enjoyable.
I love that. I love that. And thinking about, I mentioned earlier the dry July, the sober October, and if you have anyone, so if anyone's listening right now who's maybe thinking about, yeah, I kind of want to do sober October. I want to go dry for the whole month of October, and obviously there's Halloween in there, so Halloween parties are a thing. But if they're wanting to at least start with sober October, do you have any advice or suggestions to kind of help them on their next month journey?
Yeah, I would say make it fun. Try not to go into it with a mindset of, oh, it's going to be the longest month ever and it's going to be so boring. I can't have fun. Go into it really hope filled and with kind of what you're excited about with it. Make a list. I'm a big fan of lists. What is it that you're excited about? What is it that you're hopeful for? What are the outcomes that you're hoping to get from, sober October and all of dry October and all of those fun months that are happening, and go into it with a plan. And again, I know I talk about plans all the time, but plans are really important as you're changing any behavior. And be intentional in finding things that you can do along the way during that month that you can embrace through sobriety. It's like going to the pumpkin patch, and maybe I know on the Living Sobriety Authentically blog, there's a citrus, I can't remember the exact title of it. It's like a citrus apple cider refresher or punch or something. And so maybe you're going to make your apple cider punch and you're going to take that with you, and you're going to do the pumpkin patch. And, maybe for Halloween, everyone's bringing their favorite spooky drink. That's a mocktail. And there's all kinds of different ways to embrace it and have fun. And I always say, if you have any uncertainty in what that looks like, still try it. I say embrace it, but put into place before it happens some fun events that you can do that are sober events, and give yourself things to look forward to throughout the way. And then I always say, write down your milestones. As you're learning new activities, you're like, oh man, I went and did this event and there was no alcohol and I had so much fun. Maybe you went and played beach volleyball and you loved it, write it down and then kind of keep that in your back pocket, where if you decide to extend that month of sobriety, whether it's because you're sober curious or you have a substance use disorder, whatever it may be, that you have now your part of your safety plan in place. Now you know in that journey, what are the activities that you really enjoy that you know that you can do in sobriety and have fun with. And now you've already started your plan. So, just have fun with it and find new fun mocktail drinks and get your friends and family involved and just have a great time.
I love that. And like you're saying, it's just, you can take whatever the situation you're going to be in and just modify it and make it work for you. And I love how you said, have fun with this and just find the exciting things, like finding that, the cider drink, you can have fun with this because you don't have to miss out, like you said. And I love all those suggestions. And you're definitely a soul sister to me, and you don't even know it, because I'm a big fan of lists, and I have Post-its my walls don't even have paint, right?
Oh, same. I have like the big gigantic presentation Post-it notes that are like half a wall almost. They're just everywhere.
Exactly.
Like, well, here we go.
Yes, and the plan B, C, D. I love that. I'm stealing that. You have the whole alphabet, so just go where you gotta go. I love that. That was great. Perfect. So, well, I guess in wrapping up, is there anything else that you'd either like to share about your own personal journey, or just, I don't know, anything else you'd like to share with the audience today?
Yeah, I would. So I have a couple of things. So for those who are currently listening who are in recovery, and again, I'm going to use recovery broadly, and that being recovery from any mental illness, any addiction, anything, you are so worthy of everything. You deserve love and compassion and validation, and you deserve to be proud of yourself for the journey that you're on and that you're continuing to fight every day. And so, continue to advocate for yourself, continue to learn, change, and grow and adapt and have fun. For those who are listening who are maybe currently using any substance or are facing their addiction head on right now, you're so worthy of recovery. And you, just like anyone who's in recovery, can do it. And you're strong enough to do it. And you matter enough to do it. You deserve recovery. And as scary as it can be to take that step into recovery, I empower you to take it and to embrace it and to know that you matter and that you deserve that and you don't have to go at it alone. And so take that step, take it now, just take that small step to living in recovery and embracing the amazing life that you have in front of you on the other side of recovery. And just know that I know you can do it. And then lastly, for those who are listening who have a loved one who is struggling with any addiction, again, of any kind, thank you for being there for them if you're choosing to be there for them. Thank you for embracing them and navigating recovery with them in a non-judgmental, compassionate, and validating way. And know there are resources out there for you too, because you're learning also what this new journey means for you and for your loved one. And continue to give yourself space also to navigate the emotions that you're experiencing while also being supportive to your loved one. And you also don't have to go at it alone. But don't give up on them, and just know that it's hard and they're doing their best and they need you. And again, I thank you for being there for them.
Oh,
and then lastly to you, thank you for allowing the space, truly for us to even have the conversation and creating that safe space for me to talk to you about it. And for those listening from anywhere to have the space to hear about it through your platform. So thank you as well for being willing to step into that space.
Oh, my pleasure. And I know that the listeners it's a lot to process, and I feel like they're going to feel so much more hopeful on their journey and whatever decisions they choose to make moving forward. And knowing that there are resources like the Living Sobriety Authentically blog to use as a support system. But you've provided so much good advice, so many great tips to help people. So Gracelyn, honestly, thank you just so much for being on the podcast.
Of course. And again, I will say as well, if you go to the blog page, there is a resource tab. So if you're listening, you're like, okay, I'm ready. Activate now. Don't wait to activate. Don't sit on it. Activate now. Go to the blog. Look at the resource tab. You'll find the 988 number. You'll find some substance use specific resources, and get the help you deserve and ask the questions. Those are all on that page, ready and available for you.
Awesome. Well, we're going to have you back here on the Piece of Me podcast at some point.
I
So
love
Gracelyn.
that.
Oh my gosh, me too. Gracelyn, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been wonderful.
Thank you. I appreciate you very much. And thank you again for all that you're doing.
Before you go, I need your help. If you're listening to this show on Apple Podcasts, scroll all the way down and give the Piece of Me podcast a positive rating and review. You can also support the podcast by subscribing to this show on Spotify, Apple, Pandora, or wherever you listen. To stay connected, follow the Piece of Me podcast on Instagram, TikTok, and at the website pieceofmepodcast.com.